Surviving at all costs, the female abyss and the domestic elimination of patriarchy in William Oldroyd's Lady Macbeth. 1865. Women shall be kept comfortable at home. But the newlywed Catherine, now Mrs. Leicester, is comfortable in her own untamed element, namely rough cold winds and natural draughts howling through the house. An untouched wife, the daily smothering silence of the household and the deadness of the dull stiff air barely circulating make her dissolve into the stoic antique furniture, become an object herself, neglected, exposed and collected. She disintegrates amongst the softness of the divan and fades into oblivion, as her role entails presence and silence, representation to be kept hidden in the domestic sphere. She is as rough as the natural terrain outside her house, but she remains confined by the shackles of marriage and composes herself. Woman, the mute accessory dozing off from boredom and passivity. The actual interactions between Catherine and Anna, the servant, are striking. Anna meticulously obliges the rules of the household regime and complies with the established patriarchy. Taming Catherine's hair with a firm hand, tightening Catherine's corset, thereby confining her, maintaining her, the problematic sex which is the same as hers. Anna is Catherine's silent observer with an accusatory gaze. I always thought, how can she be so rigorous with her own sex, misogynistic even? After Catherine disrupts a violent, demeaning and volatile scenario in which Anna, forcibly stripped off her clothes, is treated like a sexualized animal by several groomsmen, freeing her, there is no need to explain what happened, as both women are aware of their condition as females across all ranks and how they are mistreated and abused as mere vessels for the continuation and maintenance of men and their bloodlines. Anna sees Catherine as a threat, a disruptor of order, as everything that she feels must be corrected about womanhood, everything that cannot stand and mustn't be. Catherine's adulterous, outlived and shameless sexuality is something that must be washed off, scrubbed and rubbed off, the hot water boiling the unscrupulousness out of Catherine's cold-skinned marrow. Catherine must conform to the patriarchal norms of the household. It is clear that the visit paid by the priest was originated by Anna and her fears, but failed to resonate with Catherine. The reason why Anna is so threatened and restless by Catherine's reckless behavior is because for Anna the situation is life-threatening, whereas it is a joke for Catherine. What is a comedy for Mrs. Leicester is a tragedy for Anna. This exact tension culminates in the scene in which Catherine's father-in-law returns and has dinner with the wife of his son. He craves the Fleury wine. Anna and Catherine are aware that there is none left because the lady of the house drank it all. Whilst this precise scenario is sheer amusement for the defying Catherine who got rid of social charades and niceties, it is blunt torture for Anna, who anticipates the worst mistreatment of her master. This is what Anna has feared since Catherine loosened her behavioral codes and the reason for her observatory pious, strict and ascetic personality. In this scene, the white and privileged patriarchy is clear. Catherine, a high-ranked white wife, may openly ridicule and mock her father-in-law and is frowned upon. But the stakes are higher for Anna, the black servant who is innocent but cannot procure the wine because her supposed superior drank it all. Catherine lets her dither like a fish on a hook because she knows that Anna cannot accuse her. It would be her word against the lady of the houses. Anna has no chance in this situation. She is guilty in Boris's eyes because she needs to account for all his property, which is her responsibility. As Catherine is uncontrollable, Anna is doomed. Boris is the source of Anna's fears, precautions, attentiveness, vigilance, and dependency on the established order. Her life is in his hands, and Catherine plays with it like a toy. For both women it is survival. Catherine is a suffocating prisoner in a deadening golden cage, and for Anna survival couldn't be more literal, as she is trapped by a racist, oppressive, misogynistic and hierarchical class system. Catherine has no regard for human life except her own. Catherine and Sebastian as lovers are equal to Zola's Thérèse and Laurent, animalistic, feral, sexually voracious, brutal, and yet Sebastian has a conscience. Catherine reacts to his ferocious, violent sexual identity. In many ways, she sees what Thérèse acknowledges in Laurent when she first sees him, a manhood equal to her womanhood, a way out, an ephemeral solution to an unbearable situation. Catherine blends out the man attached to this avid sexual being to whom she is so attracted. She speaks of love, but it's truly obsessed with and possessive towards him. In many ways, she wants to own him. All her passions are latched onto him and his body. He becomes the bearer of her vices, and he is terrified by the bottomless abyss inside of her, and the sheer lack of morality and overarching apathy. Catherine treats Sebastian like a puppet, a reactive sociopath who thinks she's in love, instating her own order, inviting Anna to the table, dressing Sebastian in borrowed robes, as Shakespeare would say, a dead man's robes, placing him in the master's seat at the table, letting him sleep in her husband Alexander's bed beside her. Both Catherine and Boris have the power to annihilate Anna's existence, and thus she is paralyzed by them, being authoritarian counterpoles, and suffers in silence, her conscience, loyalty, servitude, and clear-headedness torn apart. For Anna, the major difference between Boris and Catherine, deciding with whom she can live with, is that Boris is a transparent product of a racist, misogynistic, patriarchal, and malfunctioning society, whereas Catherine is unfathomable, and that makes her a force to be reckoned with. When the husband comes home, a while after his father's secret murder, he confronts his adulterous wife in their bedroom where so far, between them, only humiliation, degradation, mockery, and masturbation has happened. When he abandoned her rather early in the marriage, he left her a virgin, and upon his comeback, she apparently crossed a fine line to a whore. Is that what happens if the husband is absent and himself seeking extramarital liaisons? In this long overdue conversation, which for the first time sounds authentic and uncensored, he comments on her looks in a depreciative manner. Then he shames her for her sexuality, her disobedience, her ruthlessness, her unworthiness. Calls her a stinking rotten whore who has gotten fat with pleasure and exuberance, reminding her that she is a bought product and ought to behave as such because he does not like owning a whore. After Alexander patronizes her by repeating his old dogma that wives should be kept indoors, or in other words in captivity, as if that's the solution, she exposes Sebastian as a lover and attempts to have sex with him in full disclosure in front of her husband. With no regard whatsoever for Sebastian's life, she drags him out of the closet, and of course after Alexander slaps her face, he attacks the man, threatening his reputation and polluting his private sphere and property. After Alexander bites out a piece of Sebastian's flesh, just like Zolar's Camille bit off some of Laurent's flesh as he was murdered, Catherine regains control of the situation and beats her husband to death without batting an eye. Now indeed, her hands have committed the bloody deed. After she killed her husband, she has no inhibitions to effectively kiss her shocked lover. Whilst her father-in-law was choking on the poisonous mushrooms she fed him, she was drinking tea, listening to his life-extinguishing sounds. But when she feels compelled to kill her husband's horse, she whimpers and cries. Catherine pardons no hostility towards her. A proud woman, she will not tolerate betrayal. She makes both Sebastian and Anna sick to their stomachs. Anna has seen such unspeakable things in and committed by Catherine that she became a mute whose wholesome and innocent company is now sought by Sebastian. Everything Sebastian craved was to be acknowledged as a human being, but he reached his very temporary taste of a good life through the murdering hand of his lover, whom he abhors and fears more than anything. The newly established order by Catherine has no right of existence outside of her household, and is dismantled as soon as Agnes arrives with the ward and son of Catherine's slaughtered husband. The already broken idyll has reached its end when Agnes imposes 6-year-old Teddy's presence, male dominance, and right on Catherine's household. Even chasing her out of her own room that now belongs to Teddy, because why would a woman need all that space? I think Virginia Woolf would have had one or two things to say about that. Again, patriarchy is reinstated by a woman who should know better, educating him as an alpha male who is ranked above the female sex and whose own sex legitimizes bad behavior. There is a striking twin shot, shown back to back and as a metaphor, the first one being the two lovers entangled in their own post-coital flesh, and the second one being the rotting, unburied horse of her husband. Their love is rotten, their passion extinguished, they are themselves an unburied secret that holds on to life by all means possible, gangrenous to the bone, unable to recover. The child is an intruder to Catherine's sphere, an insult to her as an unloved, uncherished, and untouched wife, and to her own unborn child. Teddy is innocent, and he reaches out to Catherine, but as they interact, there is no way back to innocence. It is too late. Too much happened. Maybe Teddy came into her life too late, and the circumstances could never have been right. There is a mother in the making, with more infanticidal than maternal instincts. And this is where Catherine may be opposed to Marion Cotillard's Lady Macbeth. Cotillard's Lady M has a conscience, she has a wound, a trauma of losing her child. She reacts like a human being, emotionally. She was never successful in overcoming her female nature, in shedding that skin, and that is why she becomes a somnambulist, plagued by guilt-ridden visions, seeing those bloody reminding hands that won't be cleansed, robbed of her motherhood, her innocence, not recovering from her loss, her irrational actions, her family steeped in blood and crime. She commits suicide because she can't bear herself. There is none of that in Florence Pugh's Lady Macbeth, who is divorced from Shakespeare's Lady M. Pugh's Lady Macbeth is one of the most abysmal heroines with sociopathic depths that make the viewers speechless. Teddy, weakened by the rough weather which is Catherine's element, in whose waters she washed her hands clean very easily, lies on the ochre divan where she has languished for hours in her life. Again, here's a twin shot. The first one is Catherine hovering authoritatively over her father-in-law's coffin, and the second one, anticipating Teddy's cruel end, is Catherine hovering in the exact same way over this little boy lying helplessly on the ottoman. As Sebastian confides in Catherine that he had an instinct to kill the boy, but failed to do so, he plants the idea in her distorting head that the assassination of the young heir would salvage their already rotten relationship. As the boy embodies an obstacle to Catherine, she smothers him mercilessly with a pillow. Sebastian is unable to stomach their crimes for the sake of their relationship and betrays her by belting out all the murders she has committed to local authorities, Catherine and Anna. This is the moment in which Catherine takes advantage not only of her societal position, but also abuses the racial injustices incorporated in the already rotten and racially abusive system they all live in. Sebastian's voice, that of honesty, goes unacknowledged once more, and the white woman's word is overruling his as the master narrative. "She's a disease," he exclaims. Yet she is the one who survives. Ironically enough, this is the first time Sebastian tells her how he really feels about her. Their love falls apart as an illusion, and his initial reference to Catherine, "a bitch gets restless if she's tied up too long," resonates with the viewer. Whereas he has a cathartic outburst, she maintains her stoicism and cold rationale, thereby discrediting him by stating that he's lying, throwing not only him, but also Anna under the bus with an elaborate, certainly pre-patterned tale, and thus saving herself. Betrayed he stands, staring into the abyss that is society in 1865. Florence Pugh, who described her character as a corseted killer who would do anything to keep her happiness, also sees Catherine as a feminist heroine, which is a study per se for another day.